Hey, good afternoon. How are you? It's been a while. It's been a couple weeks since I've done one of these little videos here. This is, of course, what we call the interactive. And this is the interactive number 98, where we share what we're passionate about and what we've been working on in the i3D Themes Design and Code Labs. So the last couple weeks, I took last Friday off to help a family member move. It's never any fun, but it's got to happen. Kind of like, sometimes you have to upgrade and migrate a website. That's never any fun, but sometimes you just have to do it and you call in help and you get it done. And it's so much better once it's done. Now, that was me last Friday, but, helping a family member move. And then, of course, this week, I don't know if you've caught it, but we've had a lot of wildfires in British Columbia. We're in Victoria, British Columbia, just north of Seattle. But there's been an outflow of all of the smoke from the fires. And it has been so bad here in Canada. The air quality index is rated from a 0 to a 10 plus. And the higher number you get, the more unhealthy it is. And so here in Victoria for, I think, 4 days, we were at a 10 plus. There was ash floating down. Luckily, no fires close by. But it was really hard to go outside. Couldn't even make it out for a walk. It was hazy as could be, but luckily we are now cleared up. So that's what's really been going on in the environment here in Victoria the last couple of weeks. In the i3D Themes Design and Code Labs, we'll talk about the Design Lab and what's been going on with Colin. Well, first of all, there's been a lot of projects that he's been working on with content transfers, as I mentioned. Migrating from a non-responsive to a responsive framework, making sure that your website is visible in a mobile phone appropriately. And then on top of that, he's been working on the Pegasus.com homepage renovation. It's fantastic. We are working on it in parallel. Well, we actually have the Pegasus current site set up over top of it, so the public is still seeing the old site while we are still working on the new site in development mode. We're just going to finish up just a few more things and we'll be launching it next week. It really tells more about what Pegasus does. I would say probably in better detail, as well as telling the story a whole lot more. So that's what Colin and I have been working on together in the design of that. And then with Pegasus, we've added a whole bunch more features. You have those days where you get asked, what did you do? And you're like, so much, but I can't remember what exactly it all was. Well, we've actually retooled the installation interface. We've added in a bunch more features for making certain resources load faster. Just a whole slew of web performance optimization tweaks to make the pages load fast. And why are we doing this? Of course, the Pegasus Accelerator web optimization plugin, if you've never heard me talk about it before, it's a plugin for WordPress that makes your WordPress websites just run super fast without you having to tool anything. There are plugins out there where you can throw this on and then that on. Hopefully that one will work with this one. And there's a lot of work involved in tooling a website to make sure that it is fully optimized. And often you're not left with a good result when you start patching together these different plugins that do different optimization techniques. Well, I built Pegasus from the ground up so that all 20 or more features harmoniously work together. That's the idea. And that you just turn it on and it just does it. You don't need to know anything about web performance except that it's something you need to focus in on. This takes me to the next topic here that I want to cover, and that's some things that have hit the news of web development and that sort of thing in the last week or so. This is this topic here where there's smoke, there's most likely fire. Google has announced that it is assigning a team of engineers to help with WordPress, help to get it more optimized. Because it's big and it's bloated. And in fact, they've done a great job over the last little bit to make it better. But I guess Google's noticed that it's still 30% of the internet runs on WordPress. Can we assign a team to make this thing operate better? Yes, and so they're now doing that. What they've also said, in unrelated news, that they're making improvements and updates to the Google Chrome browser. One of them is in their development edition of Google Chrome, the Canary edition, I guess it is, that lazy loading will be built into the browser. Possibly, as far as the actual public release. They're doing this testing to see whether or not lazy loading is something that they can build directly into the browser. And what lazy loading is only loading images and iframes and different aspects like that on demand as you scroll down the page. Now, Pegasus has this built in as one of the features because it is incredibly important to speeding up the initial load of the web page. But Google's now looking at it going, hey, maybe we can put this in the browser itself just to make web pages load faster. Fantastic. And then the last piece of news that I noticed, and this was only yesterday that I noticed this, is that Google, in a future version, possibly the next version of Chrome, Android specifically, they will be disabling JavaScript on those cell phones that use the 2G network. I don't use 2G. Do you use 2G? Does anybody here use 2G? I remember getting an iPhone 3G back in 2007. And occasionally when I didn't get a 3G connection, it would be using 2G or Edge, which is what we would have here, which is the equivalent. But not very often. In fact, I do remember the 2G being available when I had a BlackBerry back in like 2004, 2005, until I accidentally dropped it in the ocean. It's slow. But to give you an idea how slow that is and why Google is just disabling JavaScript on it, let's talk about the speeds of cell phones, because it's really, really important to understand what we're dealing with here. So Ethernet connection, fast internet connection, when you've got your desktop, it's fast, right? You can get, I think here I can max out at 300 megabits, okay? A cell phone, a 4G LTE connection, averages about 15 megabits, but it can be slower, up down to like 1 megabit, or faster, up to 100 or more. And in fact, I was close to a cell tower the other day, and I did a test using fast.com, and I got 130 megabits. Whereas at my office, I get 3. Same network, same cell tower, just the distance makes a big difference. Now, the 3G, which is the previous network, it's what a lot of the fallback networks here in North America. 3G cell phone connection averages about 4 megabits, but it can be a little bit less and it can be a little bit more, but it averages about 4. So it might be as much as 10 times as slow as an LTE connection. Thereabouts. That's a good solid number. 10 times as, or 1/10 the speed, or LTE is 10 times as fast. It gives you an idea. So it's a magnitude of 10. Okay? So 2G, I mean, this is incredible. We all used it at one point if you had a cell phone back in the early 2000s. It is 1/10 of a megabit, or 100 kilobits connection. And where do you see this? You see this in emerging markets. You see this in third world countries where their data providers just don't have the infrastructure, they have a slower connection, and it costs a lot of money to have a cell phone connection in those sort of situations. And so what Google's doing is it's going to be disabling JavaScript by default to prevent the browsers from downloading 300 kilobytes of JavaScript files that will just take forever. Think about it like this. Your LTE phone, 4G phone, can get things 100 times as fast as a 2G connection. So if it takes 5 seconds to load a web page, that's going to on your cell phone now, for a 2G connection, that would take 500 seconds. 10 minutes. Yeah, that's a rough, maybe it's not quite 10 minutes, but it gives you an idea how, 10 minutes. Doing the math in my head, maybe I need a calculator. So that's why they're doing this. So, as I said, where there's smoke, there's usually fire, right? So we're seeing this in the news that Google has said, obviously, that their search ranks are impacted by the speed of your web pages. And they rolled this into the speed update in July. And we're seeing a lot of impact from that. I will say those pages that are better optimized are better performing in the search ranks. We've got pages that are doing extremely well because they are super optimized for speed. We're seeing that Google is adding in features into its web browser to try to make the web pages load fast. And we're seeing them trying to help out platforms to make them more optimized to load faster as well. So what we're seeing is a lot of different types of news articles all coming together to say the speed of web pages are extremely important. And if it wasn't, I mean, a lot of people in North America, desktop computers, but on a cell phone, on data connections, it can be really, really slow. And that's why when we take a look at the internet as a whole, over 60% of searches flowing through Google are done on a mobile phone. So that's most important to Google. That's their biggest segment. In that respect, only 40% are on a desktop. 60% are done on a mobile device of some sorts. Why wouldn't you concentrate on this? And those devices are slower. It's just that you can take them everywhere you go. How many times are you out at dinner and somebody asks a question? I don't know. Let's Google it. It happens a lot, and usually when you're at home, even if you have a desktop computer, somebody asks you a question. I don't know. Am I going to go over to the computer, fire up the web browser, and type in the question, or am I just going to go, how many pounds in a kilogram? You know, I don't know. And it comes up with the answer. And a lot of speech questions as well. So that's why I'm saying here is that where there's smoke, there's fire. This is the next biggest thing. It used to be web or responsive websites, making sure your phone or your website is responsive for mobile devices. That was the big thing for the last 4 years. It's now how fast is that website? And if it's not loading fast, it's going to be left behind. Luckily, that's what we specialize in. Whew, good thing too, hey? Oh my goodness. Had we not caught on to this in time, it's a good thing our web pages are loading fast. Anyways, I hope you've had a fantastic week. Fantastic 2 weeks since my last video. That everything's been going great. That you haven't had to experience the smoke that us folks over on the West Coast here have had to deal with the last couple of weeks. And I hope you have great plans for the weekend ahead. Hope the weather's good for you. Anyways, we'll talk to you again next week when I share some more updates about what's coming down the pipes with web performance optimization and all sorts of different web design. Thanks for joining me. We'll talk to you then.